Live from the glamorous Miyamoto Ballroom at the Beverly Hilton, it's the 77th Annual Cartridge Awards with your hosts, Patrick Ellers and Mark Mitchell. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great. I mean, what can you say, Patrick? It's gaming's biggest day. Afternoon? At morning? What time?
Whenever you're listening to this, I think. It is gaming's biggest day. You may think that we are, of course, referring to the Game Awards, which are in fact happening tonight. And streaming on whatever.
Happening this afternoon it's at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time.
But it goes for like 5.5 hours. I guarantee you that this award ceremony the one that we're about to present to you right here, the 77th Annual Cartridge Awards, will be tighter than that. But we've got just tons of good awards to hand out today, so we shouldn't screw around too much. But just wanted to go over the sort of regular business at the top here. Of course, my copy of Sonic Forces. Would you like to borrow it? The answer is yes, you would like to borrow it. All you gotta do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. And then give us a mailing address, and then you maybe get my copy of Sonic Forces. But what might happen there, Mark?
Ooh, you might get the goose.
Ooh, might get the goose. There's a copy of Untitled Goose Game that might be inside a box for Sonic Forces. And if you receive that one, I just don't know what to tell you. And also, if you want that one, I don't know what to tell you there either. It's a total...
no requests.
It's a total crapshoot. Yeah, no requests. This is a no requests live, an NRL scenario here. And then the other thing that you can do with that email address, and this one is important, we are going to be doing an episode at the end of the year where we predict with a large degree of certainty what will happen with Nintendo in 2021, but we need your help to do it. So if you have any predictions about what is going to happen in the world of Nintendo in 2021, please email us at nintendocartridgesociety at gmail.com. Thank you so much to everyone who has emailed us already. Again, I mentioned this on Tuesday's episode, but look, if you think your predictions are too crazy, I can guarantee you they are not crazy enough. Send them along, and the more predictions you have, the better. I'm so happy at the responses that we're getting, and I just want more of this insanity in my life. So please email us. Mark, I've been previewing these predictions, and you're going to love this.
I can't wait. And just to make sure, I can't remember if you already said it, but the deadline to get these into us is Friday, December 18th. So the time is short. It is only 8 days away.
Yes, we're really putting the screws on here, right? Tightening the screws. I'm thinking of like thumb screws. That torture device.
Oh, right. Yes, of course. That thing that we are always doing to people.
My point is, get your predictions in early. Oh no. So we can talk about them on the show. It'll be a fun episode. Mark, speaking of fun episodes, are you ready to get into the topic?
I am so ready.
Let's do it. So the Cartridge Awards, of course, every year we come in with a bunch of different categories, and Mark and I are both able to nominate as many as 3 people or entries for each category, and then we debate to determine the winner. Mark, would you like to announce the first category, please?
Yeah, so the first category is the best vehicle or means of conveyance in a Nintendo game.
Very good. So I would like to present my 3 nominations for this category.
Go
first.
For it.
First is Plessy from Super Mario 3D World. Plessy is, of course, the dinosaur who you ride on his or her back. Got like a little scarf around his neck. Is totally pleasant. We'll wave to you when you leave. The Robobot armor from Kirby Planet Robobot. It's a mech suit that Kirby rides in, adorable. And finally, the Sea Sub from Star Tropics. That is the submarine that you sail the ocean in Star Tropics on the NES.
Okay, those are good. Those are really good. A lot
Thank
of
you.
food for thought. My nominations are the Master Cycle Zero, which
Very
is
good.
the unlockable that you get at the end of the Breath of the Wild Champions Ballad DLC, where you just have this really really thin it's like story reason that the Sheikah have this like motorcycle you can ride around, which like sure, it's super fun. um the just the R-Wing from
Sure.
the Star Fox series, Rambi from Donkey Kong Country, and then I just kind of have like a blanket one, and
Ooh.
maybe we need to debate whether this is cheating or not, because if it's cheating, I have a couple of these that I'm gonna have to change on the fly. But basically it's like Final Fantasy airships. And I know that Final Fantasy is not exclusive to Nintendo. Um and so if that's problematic, we should get that out of the way right now.
Well, okay, so I don't know if that is blanket problematic because it is from a Final Fantasy game, and Final Fantasy games um are not Nintendo games. I believe I have at least one not Nintendo published game or thing from a not Nintendo published game in here. Um, I think it's okay. I think it is okay. The reason I think I do want to throw it out though is that there are so many different airships in Final
That's fair.
Fantasy, and they have different characteristics. And there are some of them like the High Wind in Final Fantasy VII or the Interceptor in Final Fantasy VI that I think are very important airships.
Also, that was my fourth nomination anyways. So it's
Yeah,
fine. I have
I mean,
three without it.
I wasn't gonna I wasn't gonna call you out on that part. I thought Mark's doing what Mark wants to do. Okay, so just to review, the nominees are Plessy, the Robobot Armor, the Sea Sub, the R-Wing, Rambi, and
Master Cycle Zero.
Master Cycle Zero from Breath of the Wild. Some good picks here. I almost want to throw out the living creatures, Plessy and Rambi. They are good means of conveyance and they are good. But I almost feel like it's shortchanging them to reduce them to just a means of conveyance.
Yeah, especially because that's true, and especially like Rambi in some of the later games, you just can play as Rambi in sections.
What a great point! Yeah,
you're not just riding him. So I know I included the R-Wing on the list, and I think the R-Wing is cool, but I don't feel totally like tied to the R-Wing. Partly because it's just an X-Wing.
It's just an X-Wing, yeah.
And that's like that's why you like it. That's why you like Star Fox, is because it's
correct.
like such a
just
amalgamation of all that of like Star Wars and Indiana Jones. But yeah, like it's so blatantly a ripoff that I think it's okay to not include the R-Wing.
I think that is fair. I think I will also put forth that we could cut out the Robobot armor. Which again, maybe not actually a means of conveyance so much as it does convey you from place to place, but it may in fact be more of a weapon, or a wearable, which I think then would just bring us down to either the Sea Sub, from Star Tropics, or the Master Cycle Zero.
Of course, the two means of conveyance
Right.
everybody immediately thinks of when they think of Nintendo games.
So can I make an impassioned argument for the Sea Sub?
I think
from
you have
Star
to.
Tropics. So this is one of those like it's an almost pointless vehicle in terms of like the gameplay, but it is utterly necessary in terms of the narrative of the game and in terms of the immersion. One of the sort of anti-piracy measures that Star Tropics had was that you needed a special code to operate the submarine to get past like the second or third level or something like that. And the only way to get this code back in 1991 when this game came out was to have a letter that originally came with like the physical copy of the game, and you dip the letter in water, and you're instructed to do this like within the game, to dip a letter in water, and then it reveals the hidden code 747. but it reveals this code to you, and then you enter it in, and then you can continue playing the game. But without it, you are unable to, progress in the story because you are unable to pilot the C sub. Which means that the C sub somehow exists in both the game and your reality. It is a fourth wall shattering vehicle that brings you into the game itself. For me, it's just very important.
Yeah, that I forgot because I feel like part of the myth of Star Tropics is the fact that it had a puzzle that like you could only solve
Yes.
with that like physical medium. I didn't know that it was tied to this submarine. So that is really cool. I mean, I wish I could make such like an impassioned plea for the way that like the Master Cycle Zero is some like fifth dimensional video game
Right. It is
creation
unfortunately not.
that exists and like doesn't exist and is driving us all mad, and I really can't make that argument. So I think almost by default the submarine from Star Tropics is our winner here. Not that it's like a victory of forfeiture, just that I think it has the strongest argument going for it.
All right, so the winner of Best Vehicle or Means of Conveyance in a Nintendo game goes to C Sub from Star Tropics.
Okay, sorry, actually, before we move on to the next one,
Yes.
I do think that it's important if we establish whether these are definitive awards that stand the test of time, or whether these are like the cartridges are a separate thing that like we're not forever tying ourselves to the submarine being like the best vehicle or means of conveyance.
I mean, this is important because so I'm going to say that the cardies that we give out here today are just cardies, and they are not definitive proclamations. Because you could say in some way that we are burning up 8 different episode topics in this one episode. So no, if we as a show and not as an awards granting institution want to revisit these topics on a separate date and really come up with a best vehicle or means of conveyance with Matt Acevedo or whatever, I think we can do that, and it won't be in conflict with the awards that we give out today.
Okay, I'm in 100% agreement with that, and I do think the distinction you're making between the two bodies, between the award-giving body and the show proper,
the entertainment product,
yes,
that
is
NCS,
really important, because as members of the voting body for the awards, we are definitely open to bribes, whereas that is not the case.
That's right.
For the regular show.
That's right. The NCS, the entertainment property, has integrity. The award granting body has none. Mark, the next award that we have up for consideration is Best Idle Animation in a Nintendo Game. Mark, would you please read your nominees?
So I'm starting with Mario in Super Mario Odyssey. The amount of idle animations and like the loving detail in the idle animations are all amazing. The one that I specifically want to call out is it's an evolution of the classic. If you let Mario just be idle for long enough in a comfortable like location, he eventually falls asleep. And the process of him falling asleep is really cute because there's like 3 different stages. First, his like eyes get heavy, Cappy's eyes start getting heavy. Then he like kind of like leans on his side, and then he decides to like lay on his back. And then when he lays on his back, a bird comes and lands on his nose. And depending on what kingdom you're in, a different
this. I love
like
that.
kingdom appropriate bird shows up. So I really love this idle animation in Super Mario Odyssey. Another one I think is really great, and it's another kind of like collection of ones, is just the idle animations in the Donkey Kong Country games. It's true for the SNES games and for the Returns and Tropical Freeze as well. One of the things I like about the idle animations in the original SNES Donkey Kong Country games is that they're all really like playful in the sense that the Donkey Kong and like Diddy Kong, like they don't get mad at you for not playing. They just like look for stuff to do. They just like keep themselves entertained until you come back.
Okay, so one of my nominations is Donkey Kong in Donkey Kong Country. do you want to call out a specific
Yes.
character? Okay.
So I will also do Donkey Kong, but I'm going to do the one from Tropical Freeze where he pulls out a 3DS and plays it if you leave him idle for long enough.
That's adorable. And your third?
My third is, this is again where we're like, does this really count? My third is Sonic the Hedgehog. And
Counts. Totally counts.
And I just said that I like the Donkey Kong Country ones because they don't get impatient with you. But Sonic the Hedgehog is completely the opposite. Sonic the Hedgehog has attitude because that was Sega's whole thing. And he's like wagging his finger at you, tapping his foot impatiently. And when I was thinking about this, what I realized is that I didn't have a Genesis growing up, but Mario until the N64, like Mario himself didn't have idle animations. So you're playing like Super Mario World, you stop and he just stops, like nothing happens. But that is not the case for Sonic. Like from the get-go, Sonic was much more like that. It was just something I had never seen before, and I remember that like idle animation feeling like magic.
I would also say that the Sonic the Hedgehog idle animation is almost remarkably subtle considering how unsubtle the character is. Like he taps his foot, he checks his watch, he looks at the camera, and like that's it. He could be more in your face about like, come on, we gotta go. But it's really just him annoyedly wondering why you're not making him run, which I think is great.
Yeah.
So my nominations are Donkey Kong from the original Donkey Kong Country, which is not much. He doesn't do much. He looks back and forth. He beats his chest and goes woo 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 woo, and that's it. And then it'll start over again. Very simple, but I like it a lot. Another one of my nominations here is Mario from Super Mario 64. Mark, you discussed a little bit more the evolution of that in Super Mario Odyssey. What I like about the idle animation in Super Mario 64 is that Mario never you said if in Odyssey, if Mario is somewhere comfortable, he'll fall asleep. He never seems to get comfortable in 64. He'll fall asleep like sitting up and go, I'm tired. And it's adorable. And then my final nomination is, of course, Luigi from the Luigi's Mansion series. Singing to himself because he's scared, shaking a little bit. It's just cowardly little motions, and it feeds into the berry fabric that is Luigi's Mansion. So, Mark, our nominees are as follows: Mario from Super Mario Odyssey, Donkey Kong from Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, Sonic the Hedgehog, Donkey Kong from Donkey Kong Country, Luigi from Luigi's Mansion, and Mario from Super Mario 64.
I just right off the bat tend to lean towards either Luigi or Sonic.
I agree. It's Luigi or Sonic, and the rest of them like are cute or whatever. But Luigi and Sonic are so revealing about their characters that I think they are the obvious front runners.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I feel like for me, I'd probably give the nod to Luigi, just because for a really yes, it is remarkable that right out of the gate, like Sonic had such personality. But I think for a very long time, like Luigi didn't really have personality outside of physical characteristics, and I think that like that extra bit of like shading that we get from like the Luigi Mansion series and those idle animations that give a little bit more like insight into his character, make him more noteworthy.
I mean, it's tough though because the Sonic idle animation is iconic, right? Like it's probably the most popular idle animation, right? Or the most well known, like maybe in history. And I know we're a Nintendo podcast and not a Sega podcast, but I almost think that the Sonic the Hedgehog one is a better idle animation, or at least a more noteworthy one. I honestly, I could go either way on this one. So if you feel super strongly about Luigi, we'll go with Luigi. But I think Sonic may be the rightful winner of this.
See, I think I don't feel super strongly about it. I could totally go either way. felt compelled to give Luigi the nod because we are a Nintendo podcast, but also I recognize that I nominated Sonic. Um,
Well,
and
and you have to remember that we are not the NCS entertainment product right now. We are the awards granting institution,
that's
which
right.
we've established is crooked. So if we want to give it to Luigi because we say he plays by the rule and Sonic doesn't, we can do that.
Well, I also think that like the era of Sonic and Mario like not getting along is long past,
Totally.
right? And so for that reason I don't feel that bad giving it to Sonic the Hedgehog. So I think the rightful winner is Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog is the winner of the best idle animation in a in a Nintendo game. All right, Mark, will you please introduce the next category?
Yes, our next category is best hat on a Nintendo character. And as you are seeing, we're kind of loosely defining what Nintendo character means.
Yes, I suppose we are. All right, so best hat. I think there are a lot of obvious picks for this one. I wonder if we'll tread any of the super obvious picks. My nominees are as follows: Kix's Newsy Cap from Animal Crossing. Kix, the little skunk who sells shoes and backpacks and
Yes.
stuff. He's got like a little newsy cap and he looks adorable in it. And there's very little else that I like about Kix except his hat and his little vest. So
I imagine him
gotta
having
give it
like
up for the hat.
yeah, I imagine Kix having like a Brooklyn accent.
Yeah, totally. And then my second nominee is Samus Aran's helmet from the Metroid series. Is a helmet a hat? I'm going to say for the purposes of this award, yes, it is. The visor is iconic. I love seeing the reflection of Samus's face in that visor when you're in first person mode in Metroid Prime. It's just so cool looking. Everything else about Samus's outfit gets like bigger and bulkier and like tougher as individual games progress and as the series progress, but that helmet stays the same. They knocked it out of the park right away. And then my final nominee is of course Waluigi's hat, complete with stick-on upside down L right in the middle of it.
Ooh, those are good. So I am going to put something forward, but then I think immediately retract it. But I feel like
Very
the
good.
Meryl Streep of hats is the hats that come with Kirby's copy ability from Super Smash Brothers.
Oh, okay. So like all Kirby hats.
Basically, it's basically
Wow.
the best hat on a Nintendo character goes to Kirby's copy ability hats, which is in fact like 70 hats at this point or something.
Yeah. That's incredible though, because you do have to assume that is one hat or like one thing, right? It is one phenomenon of like, does Kirby generate that? Because he spits everything out, right? Like he swallows Bayonetta, spits Bayonetta out, and then has hair on the top of his head. He didn't steal that hair from Bayonetta. He copied it somehow.
Right. Yeah, and then like manifested it. Maybe almost like a chameleon, I think, can like manifest different colors. So that's something
Hence
for us.
the Streep comparison.
So that's something for us to chew on. But
Okay.
while we're considering that, I will also another like nominee that I wanted to make was Toad because like and I know
okay.
that
Where
it's
you going with
controversial.
this, Mark?
I know that it's controversial, but I
Right.
think like Toad's head is arguably a hat. And I can't remember where we came down on this in the past, but I'm including it here because while it may be functionally part of a toad's body, I think as far as the iconography goes, it is a hat.
I mean, I'll write it down, but I think you're out of your mind, Mark.
I think when you look at it, it is purposefully designed to look like a hat, and I don't think we have a definitive answer on whether it's a hat or head.
Yeah, I guess we don't, but we do know that when Toad wears headphones, that the headphones are connected to like the outside of like the bulb that is
Right.
that mushroom thing,
But
implying that his ears are in there.
yeah, I mean that does exactly that they're in there. I feel like it raises more questions than it answers because it's like,
That's true.
is it like if you have a beanie pulled over your head and your ears are underneath it, or is it saying that there's like ear canals in that bulb and that are just would only be like you'd only be able to see it in like super high definition?
Yeah. Okay. So that's one of your nominees. Do you have a third?
Okay, here does this count as a hat? Midna's
I can't believe all of your suggestions have to be investigated as to whether or not they're hats. Mark.
Midna's headdress
Oh,
from
this is excellent.
the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Now, I think you could argue that it is a like mask um with like a headband around it or something, but I am including it as headgear. Cuz that's probably the least like controversial of my nomination.
So what are those? Is it called like a piece of a fragment of Twilight or something? The
Ooh.
because it is it's one of 4 objects that like you actually go into dungeons and fight for the other 3. And I'm sorry that the name is escaping me right now. But it is definitely a like super powerful object in the world of Twilight Princess. And I just wish I could remember what it is. But I think that is a great pull. She wears it on her head, therefore it is a hat.
Okay. So yeah, then those are my 3 if we're okay with it.
Okay, so the nominations, a fused shadow is what it's called.
Oh, nice.
So the nominations for best hat on a Nintendo character are Kix's Newsy cap from Animal Crossing, Samus's helmet from the Metroid series, Waluigi's hat with an upside down L sticker. That was Waluigi. I don't know if I said Waluigi or Luigi. Kirby's copy ability hat, Toad's head, or Midna's fused shadow headdress. Mark, I'm sorry, man. I gotta throw out Toad's head. It's not a hat. I don't think it should be considered here.
I respect your opinion. I don't think it would have won anyways. I think you're wrong and probably dangerously
Wow.
wrong, but
Wow.
I respect our ability to disagree. I think it's one of the strengths of this show.
I will agree with that wholeheartedly. That it is one of the strengths of the show. One of the problems with the award granting committee, however. Are there other things on here that you think are easy to throw out? Like, it's good thing you were nominated, but like you're not going to win this award.
I do feel that way about Waluigi's hat, which I've expressed my love for, like the myth of Waluigi. That the fact that we know nothing about him, but he appears to have a very rich like backstory that Nintendo just like
Yes.
doesn't care to share with us. But I like that it is a nod to like Mario's cap because I think that is an obvious one that didn't get nominated. You might say like I'm sure there was a Deadline article saying that it got snubbed, Mario's hat in this category. But
yeah, I mean we're also not we're not considering Link's talking hat from the Minish cap. So
that's true. Or Link's hat in general, although like iconic but not that great.
Right. Look, sometimes it is incumbent on award shows to shine a light on otherwise underrepresented media, right? So we're doing our part. The award granting committee, well crooked, is also principled in some ways. So okay, Waluigi's hat and Toad's head have both been disqualified or taken out of consideration.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Kirby's copy ability hat is almost like too overpowered because really we're talking about like I said, like 50 hats and not really like one iconic hat.
And also in the example that we gave, I realized halfway through describing the hat that I was describing hair. So I think it is
true.
Frequently hair. So
yeah.
So disqualified for too frequently being hair. That leaves us with the Kix Newsy cap, Samus's helmet, and Midna's fused shadow headdress. I gotta say, not a nominee that I came in with, but Midna's headdress is such a good pull that I feel like either that or the Newsy cap on Kix should be our winner.
Over Samus's helmet?
I mean, maybe. I feel like Samus's helmet, again, I said it counts as a hat, but like, does it?
I think it does, but okay. I'm okay with removing Kix from. For me, I don't think Kix takes it. But one thing that I like about the Newsy cap on Kix is that it does, in my opinion, so much heavy lifting to give that character like personality.
Yeah, I will agree with that 100%. I think what this means that we're coming down to, because you were willing to throw out Kix and I was willing to throw out Samus, that Midna's Fuse Shadow headdress is in fact the winner of best hat on a Nintendo character.
I like it.
Midna's Fused Shadow. I love it. All right. So the next category that we have up for consideration is Best Castle. Best Castle in a Nintendo game. Mark, would you please read your 3 nominees?
Okay. So I'm starting with Garreg Mach Monastery. And I grant it is a monastery, not a castle by definition, but I kind of feel like it's a castle. Like I'm looking to you, Patrick, to see if I can slide this one in here.
Mark, this is one of my nominees as well.
Okay, all right. Oh, wait, okay. So okay, so we'll put Garreg Mach Monastery from Fire Emblem Three Houses. I don't think I said that.
Yes.
Up there. Another one I have is Dracula's Castle from the Castlevania series, and I will say
excellent.
Specifically from Super Castlevania 4, just because that is one that lives large in my head. And then the final one that I'm going to put up there is Peach's Castle from the Mushroom Kingdom. But I will specifically say from Super Mario 64. Like it is in higher fidelity in other games. But to me, like the fact that you're able to explore the inside of it to the degree that you are in Super Mario 64 is one of the things that like makes that game so special. Is that like more and more layers of the castle like get unveiled and you're going outside and you're draining the moat and like doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Makes it just like really memorable.
Yeah, it is. The first example I can think of like a hub world that feels meaningful and fun to explore all on its own. And part of that is just like, the Mario-ness of it, that like I love running around and jumping as Mario, but I love running around and jumping in that space specifically. I think Peach's Castle is an excellent pull, Mark.
Granted, it's infested. The walls are infested with the ghosts of toads, but
it's not clear what's happening there. No one really knows. It also has, art that you can jump into. It's a wild place, man. All right, so I obviously Garreg Mach Monastery is one of my nominees as well. But let that not sway anyone into thinking that will be the automatic winner, because that is not necessarily the case. My second nominee is Hyrule Castle from Breath of the Wild. So this is the Hyrule Castle that has been taken over by Calamity Ganon and sits in the center of the kingdom and is something that you can see out on the horizon at any time. You can make an attempt on breaching the castle walls anytime you want. It is one of I think the only time in the game where like crossing a threshold makes the game load something new, because it is so dense and so complex and is like the one large still standing building in the world of the Breath of the Wild Hyrule. And just what a cool like silhouette that thing casts in the sky. It's awesome. And then my final nominee is Heliodor Castle from Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition, which of course is not a Nintendo game, but was in fact published by Nintendo on the Switch. My love for Dragon Quest XI's Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch has been well documented on the NCS Entertainment product, and so I don't feel the need to go over it too much. But Heliodor Castle is a place that you go to early in the quest, like very early, with the hero and Eric, and where you are sort of learning the very premise of the game, that you are the foretold hero, but then you're thrown in prison because they're like, the hero brings about the evil. But in reality, that's not what's going on. But you return to this location again and again, sort of as the world changes and as your characters change. And you see it through a new light, sometimes from a place of power, sometimes with allies who are in good at the castle, sometimes to defeat people who live at the castle. So it's a very cool and dynamic location for a very cool and dynamic game. Mark, this is a tough category. The nominees to recap them all are Hyrule Castle from Breath of the Wild, Garreg Monastery from Fire Emblem Three Houses, Heliodor Castle from Dragon Quest XI-S Echoes of an Elusive Age Definitive Edition, Dracula's Castle from Super Castlevania 4, and Peach's Castle from Super Mario 64.
So one thing I'll say, as we're trying to like weed these out for Garreg, or I guess like about Garreg Monastery, is that so much of Fire Emblem Three Houses happens there, but I don't know that it has like the most personality as like a location itself.
That is interesting, because you're right, and it's, the Fire Emblem games aren't used to having like a hub world like that, or like a place that you keep returning to. They usually try to keep that sort of abstract, that just like a series of menus or like a map or something like that, which, in fairness, is how you, like, if you choose to treat Fire Emblem Three Houses that way, you don't have to actually do any running around the castle or like interacting with people. You can manage all that either from menus or just automating it. So I think, yeah, if you can automate your experience with a castle, it's probably not that good of a castle.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to remove that one.
Okay.
And I just haven't made it far enough in Dragon Quest XI-S Echoes of Elusive Age Definitive Edition for the Nintendo Switch to like have an opinion on Heliodor Castle. And so I think it's great that it got nominated, but I wouldn't put it on my list personally, which
Very
I
good,
didn't.
very good. Okay, so that brings us down to Hyrule Castle from Breath of the Wild, Dracula's Castle from Castlevania, or from Super Castlevania 4, and Peach's Castle from Super Mario 64. I think let's examine Peach's Castle for just a second, because I want to make sure that we are not having it on there as just a like a nostalgia point or like a relic of something. And I think I'm gonna have to defer to you a little bit, because when Super Mario 3D All Stars came out, I played all the way through Super Mario 64, loved it, felt no reservations about playing a 20-year-old game or whatever, and that it was a little bit of a different experience for you. Do you believe that it still holds a place on this list of nominees?
Yeah, I do. I actually think that like I really liked playing Mario 64 because I don't have nostalgia for it. And there were a lot of things that like I found frustrating about that game, but Peach's Castle was definitely not one of them. Like
Yeah.
I think it's one of the like strengths of that game is the setting and like the sense of like discovering and making your way through the different parts of the castle and just being kind of like surprised at what each area can hold. And so yeah, I think it's one of the things that holds up best about that game.
That that's an excellent point. So I guess we will keep it in the running. I may move here to knock out Dracula's Castle from Super Castlevania 4. Obviously a great castle, obviously a fun, moody game. It is, sort of borrowing from Konami, which is in turn sort of borrowing from, you know, Dracula, from Nosferatu. Like it is not as much a Nintendo castle as obviously Hyrule Castle or Peach's Castle are.
I also think that kind of a knock against Dracula's Castle in those first four Castlevania games, different from like both Peach's Castle and Hyrule Castle, is that like the interior of like Hyrule Castle in Breath of the Wild, and to a lesser degree, but still more in my opinion than Dracula's Castle from Super Castlevania 4, is like they have an internal logic to them, whereas like
Yes.
Dracula's Castle like ostensibly you're making your way to the top, but like it doesn't really, not every area like organically connects to the next in a way that you're like, ah, yes, of course, like this would follow that.
Right. It's not like, oh yes, I understand why or how someone would have lived here.
Right. And look, like Peach's Castle is completely bonkers, right? Like it's
Sure.
not like it's completely logical or anything. But the sense of space, I think, benefits from being
Hmm.
3D and being like, okay, I enter this door and that door is always there and I can return to this area whenever I want. So I think like just like that fact is like elevates Peach's Castle and Hyrule Castle.
And Hyrule Castle, I would say, actually does have a pretty solid sense of like, it is a ruined castle, but when you are in like the parts of it that are, sort of still standing, that like the banquet halls and like stables and stuff that feel real or feel like they were real spaces at one point. Maybe give it an edge in like a realism or like a fidelity angle, but like what is it really expressing other than ruin, which the rest of the game expresses, expertly. Whereas Peach's Castle sort of is the entire framework by which you understand Super Mario 64.
And Peach's Castle like benefits, just like you were saying, from the variety of uh like design, right? Like
Yeah,
Castle is very realistic in a sense, but also very much like the same.
yeah. I wish we could see Hyrule Castle, like the interior of it, in its glory days. If we do see that at some point in Age of Calamity, I haven't seen it yet, but I doubt it. So I think we're in agreement. I think the winner of the best castle in a Nintendo game goes to Peach's Castle from Super Mario 64.
Okay, up next we have best collectible in a Nintendo franchise.
This was a tough one for me, and so please bear with me while while we go through my nominees. Um, my nominees for best collectible in a Nintendo franchise, coins for example. First nominee is bananas from Donkey Kong, and specifically Donkey Kong 64, because there are many different colors of bananas that can only be collected by specific monkeys. They're a nightmare. I almost have them on here as like a shaming thing. I'm elevating it so we can all see how bad they are. My second nominee is Starbits from Super Mario Galaxy. They are the thing that turned that game from a single player experience to a two-player co-op experience sort of effortlessly, and anyone can do it. Anyone can help you collect Starbits. And then my third and final collectible from the Legend of Zelda series, heart container pieces. They are ubiquitous. They are in all of the games since the third one. Sometimes you need to collect 4 to get a new heart container. Sometimes you need to collect 5. And it always feels like weighty and meaningful when you collect one, which cannot be said about almost any other collectible that we're going to talk about today, I think.
So my three are pretty like right down the middle. They are rupees from the Legend of Zelda series,
Mm-hmm.
coins from the Super Mario series, and
Wow.
finally bananas specifically from the first Donkey Kong Country game.
Okay. All right. So we've got a lot of the same kind of thing happening here.
Now, I want to speak in defense of the bananas in Donkey Kong Country, the original game.
Please.
One thing that I really think is clever about these collectibles is that the whole like plot, if you want to call that, or conceit of Donkey Kong
Yes.
Country is that Donkey Kong discovers that the banana hoard has been stolen, and your like goal through the entire game is to like reclaim these bananas from the Kremlins and King K. Rool. And so I think it is clever that the like collectible in those games are bananas, because it like each one you grab is just adding another one to your hoard.
I wish it would do the new Super Mario Brothers 2 slash Wario Land thing of keeping a running total
Yes.
of the bananas as you collect them. I feel like that would make them so much more meaningful. When you said just coins from Mario, were you just thinking of like the original Super Mario Brothers or like the whole series?
Yeah, that one's tough. Like I was thinking just like in general, and that's the reason why it's on this list. The reason it's on this list is because it's like so iconic. Like it is the original to my mind, like Nintendo collectible. Um, I I'm fine striking it. Like I don't think it holds up that great. Like when you really get down to it, it's like uh there is no internal logic compared
Right.
to like rupees or bananas. It's just like coins just exist in the world of Mario because it was a game that was made in the late 80s. It didn't matter. It was just about fun. And like I feel like they finally found a reason to exist again with Super Mario Odyssey. But
Right.
other than the fact that they're so iconic, I don't have that much to say about it.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I will also support taking it off the list, or at least not considering it for actually winning. Along with, of course, the bananas from Donkey Kong 64. They're both thrown out. I may also make a move to. I don't think rupees from the Legend of Zelda series should win. I think it's a pretty good collectible. But I think one, it is almost more of a currency than a collectible. In fact, I think that is what it is. I don't know that I would consider it a collectible. But also, I find the economy of Zelda games always to be like weirdly lopsided, right? Like when you don't have enough rupees, it's like, when am I ever going to get enough rupees to buy this thing? And like that is true for 90% of the game. And then you get to a point where you're like, I'm never going to spend all these rupees. It's like bells in Animal Crossing, you know?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's a great. I think like Bells is a great example. I feel like anytime that there is a mechanic in a game where you can like bank the currency, and
Yeah.
there's like potential for like interest, or like it just
It's too much.
it's too much. It's too real.
Yeah. 100%. Okay, so that leaves us with the following three collectibles. Starbits from Super Mario Galaxy, heart container pieces from The Legend of Zelda, and yours.
Bananas from Donkey Kong
Bananas,
Country.
yes.
Yeah.
So I think these are all good. How are you feeling?
The one thing I like about Starbits that I think elevates it, I don't know to winning, but elevates it above the others, is the fact that it enables like a second player to participate in the game.
Yeah, it's big, and they're useful. Like they are frequently reduced to like sort of currency status, right? That you're using them to feed Lumas, who then turn into either launch stars or into galaxies themselves, which is a weird trippy thing that we don't have time to dig into right now. But like it's that, but they're also like useful in the course of gameplay. Like you can shoot them at enemies to stun them or like knock them out. And yeah, just really, turning that second player, as someone who could just be like watching you play is now suddenly an active participant is, that's really nice.
Yeah. And then I feel like I've said my piece about bananas in Donkey Kong
Mhm.
Country.
And I've basically said my piece about heart container pieces.
I
Which,
find
like,
heart container pieces annoying though, because like
mm,
I mean obviously it's great to get more hearts and all of that, but I've I've just never enjoyed collecting them. I always find it like more of a nuisance than anything, which is one of the reasons I really liked the way that your heart containers expand, or like your health expands in Breath of the Wild, where it's like, nah, like I don't have to do any of that anymore. Like I don't have to like search out of the way places to try to find that like fourth or fifth heart container.
Yeah, you're never searching out of the way places in Breath of the Wild. Mark, what are you talking about?
I like
That's
that I
the
don't have
whole
to do
game.
it. I like that I don't have to do it for heart containers.
No, that's true. Okay, so maybe what we're just coming down to here is a question between bananas in Donkey Kong Country and Starbits in Super Mario Galaxy.
So, one thing I will say, for not in defense of basically the reason I think we can get rid of the Donkey Kong Country bananas is, even though I think it is a clever and elegant way to like put a currency into the world, or put like a collectible into the world, I think it is essentially just like, I don't think you can argue it's anything but just like a coin analog. And so
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
Starbits probably takes it.
Also, I mean, I don't mean to attack the logic of this again, but Donkey Kong, you shouldn't be hoarding bananas. Bananas go bad. Let them grow on trees and just pick them when you're hungry. You don't need to hoard them. They're bananas. Okay, so the winner of the best collectible in a Nintendo franchise is Starbits from Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2. Mark, the next category, the next award we have to give out is Best Nintendo Boss Not Featured in a Mario Series. Not featured in a Mario series, but a Nintendo boss all the same. Mark, would you like to read your nominees first?
My nominees are Andross in Star Fox 64, Majora's Mask from The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, and Mother Brain from Super Metroid.
Okay, so we have come up against something that could be pretty predictable here. I also nominated Mother Brain from Super Metroid and the Skull Kid / Majora from Majora's Mask. Should I just give my last nominee and then we can talk about all four of them together?
Sure.
My final nominee for this category is Gangrel, the king from Fire Emblem Awakening. He is basically, in Game of Thrones, there is the Mad King that we never actually get to see on the show. He's the sort of guy that messed everything up. And that is basically what Gangrel is. He is a lunatic, and he is a despot, and he wants to destroy everyone and everything. And he is a bad man. There's a sequence in the game where he has your sister she's like a princess of some kind, has her executed in front of everyone, and it is horrifying. And he's so good to hate. There's nothing particularly notable about like your actual combat encounters with him, but he's such a satisfying villain to vanquish that it almost doesn't matter.
So, should I go ahead and explain why I nominated Andross
Please.
From Star Fox 64? Because I think what we're both conceding is basically that we're just going to like get rid of these two nominees and focus more on Majora's Mask and
I think that's probably yeah.
Okay, so the thing that I like about Andross is like the absurd kind of like body horror aspect of your encounter with him in Star Fox 64.
Oh man,
he's a giant floating head. He's a monkey. And so he's like he looks like an ape from like the 70s Planet of the Apes films. He looks like Dr. Zaius. And his disembodied head is like flying around.
And highly pixelated, even for a Nintendo 64.
Yeah, yeah.
Or not pixelated so much as low poly.
Low poly. And so, but there's like two phases to this fight. So you're fighting this, ape head, and then that part falls away, and you are just fighting his brain. With eyes. Yeah. And you can like, if you're not careful, you can fly into like his like spaghetti like brain stem. Like it's a very insane final form for a final boss, because it's just like, no, like his skull and skin and muscle just all fell away, and now you're just like fighting this giant floating brain.
Man, I know we've talked about it a couple times this year, but the Star Fox series does not get enough credit for how trippy and weird it is. Just like aggressively so.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about it here, but like Andross at the end of the SNES Star Fox is not this like ape thing. It's a weird like polygonal mask head type weird thing that like shoots polygons out of its mouth. It reminds me of like the giant head from Zardoz that like shoots that like spits guns out of its mouth. It just doesn't make any sense. And the fact that like this second evolution of it is like, okay, we're gonna make it an ape head, kind of, is also just it's really bizarre.
So good picks, both of these guys. But the Skull Kid under the control of Majora's Mask. Now, how do we talk about this character, right? Because like it is partially we like it because it's like the playfulness of the Skull Kid corrupted by like the mask, and I don't think the mask itself has like will. Like it has.
Well, what are you fighting at the very end? Because like the very end is like the mask kind of like floating around, and it gets like grows tentacles and stuff. I'll tell you the part for me that I think is so memorable about this entire encounter is like so you call on the giants to like hold it up, and then they like get weak kneed, and it like evolves into this moment where you're out kind of like in this like dreamscape, and there's a tree, a giant tree, and
Well,
Link
this is you're on the moon, right?
are you I can't yeah, you may
I
be.
think
And
I
then
think you're on the moon. Yeah.
and yeah, there's this giant tree, and like Link runs up to it, and there's like a kid or something sitting under the tree that's wearing like the mask, and it appears like it doesn't have a head other than the mask, and you talk to it, and it's like, do you want to play with me? And you say yes, and that's when you like again launch into this like last battle. It's so like the whole game is obviously like trippy with the time travel and the moon crashing
Yeah.
into Termina and all that kind of stuff, but the end of it is like exceptionally like and conceptually just like really unique in any of like Zelda game.
Yeah. So an excellent boss, a great like final encounter, but also just like a haunting presence throughout, which I think is something that gives Majora's Mask a little bit of an edge over someone like Mother Brain, who is a background character until you fight her. And obviously in Super Metroid, that is one of the great like boss encounters of all time. Some of the best storytelling, like passive storytelling, that you'll see in a game, especially from that era. Um, but like I don't know, she's weird and gross. So like not nearly as like elegant and spooky as Majora. I think Majora's Mask slash the Skull Kid with Majora's Mask on it is gonna get my vote here.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right, very good. Mark, would you like to introduce the next category?
Our
Oh,
next
sorry. So that means the winner of best Nintendo boss not featured in Mario series, the Skull Kid slash Majora's Mask from The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask.
our next category is best strategy game or RPG to give up after 10 hours.
A good category for us, I think. I think you and I, in the work that we do over on the entertainment product that is the NCS podcast, have a lot of experience with games like this. My three nominees are as follows: Codename Steam on the 3DS. It is a like over the shoulder turn based strategy shooter um, tactics game featuring steampunk aesthetics and characters from American history and folklore and literature. It is bonkers, and there's an alien invasion. It's the craziest thing you'll ever play, or the craziest thing you'll play for about 10 hours and then stop. My next nominee is, of course, Advance Wars on the Game Boy Advance, a game that I dug into earlier this year, played for about 10 hours and then moved on. And of course, last but not least, but possibly least, Xenoblade Chronicles Remastered on the Switch. Man, I thought for sure that like this was going to be the one that stuck, the one that I was going to play and finally understand the hype. I would say that I did not even get 10 hours into this game before I was like, I got to move on.
These are yeah, like you're saying, this is such a good category for us. My wall of shame is as follows: Octopath Traveler, a game.
Now, Mark, you can only nominate 3 games here. Remember?
Yeah, Octopath Traveler with a bullet. This is a game. The thing about like the games on my list, these are all games that I enjoyed as I played them, but for one reason or another, like decided not to play them anymore. So Octopath Traveler fits that bill. Golf Story is another one. This is like it is a action game with RPG elements, but I loved Golf Story and then just kind of like didn't finish it. Got to one course that was a little bit hard, put it down for a while, and then just never got back. But it's a golf. Really, yeah, it's a really, really good game, and I'm excited for the sequel whenever it comes out. And then finally, this actually maybe is the exception to the other two. I have the original Final Fantasy on here that was released on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Patrick and I sat down one time, maybe like 2 years ago at this point, and played quite a bit of it in an afternoon. maybe talked a good game about continuing to chip away at it, but that game is
We definitely
brutal.
did. We definitely did. Yeah, that game is brutal, and in a lot of ways it's broken. Like, there are spells that don't have any effect. There are monsters that someone put a number in the wrong place and it's like just too hard to actually fight. So yeah, there are a lot of ways in which the original Final Fantasy is straight broken. Like legitimately so. Um but yeah, that's a tough one because I feel like I've played the first 10 hours of that game uh more than I've played the first 10 hours of the rest of these games, just by virtue of the fact that it's been around since like 1986. Um, but good nominees all around. Here they are for best strategy game or RPG to give up on after 10 hours. Codename Steam, Advance Wars, Xenoblade Chronicles Remastered, Octopath Traveler, Golf Story, and Final Fantasy. Um, I think I'd like to remove Xenoblade Chronicles Remastered, as I think I probably played it for 3 hours, and I actually don't think these games are very good. So the idea here is that these are the best games to play for 10 hours. I don't know that you'll even have a fun 10 hours with Xenoblade.
So I think on that same note, it's fair to remove the original Final Fantasy, which is fun as a historical artifact, but not really fun to play.
Now, we have talked a lot on the show about how no one could ever possibly play all of Octopath Traveler. So that may be the quintessential play for 10 hours and then never play again. But I almost wonder if it is too quintessentially that. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I think but but I don't know that that's a reason to dismiss it out of hand. I
Yeah.
mean, because
Yeah.
I think something like Golf Story, which I also nominated, is almost like too fun of a game to be on this list.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's very conceivable that somebody could finish it, and you could probably finish it in less than 10 hours. So I'll remove Golf Story from this list.
I think the same can also be said of Advance Wars, which is a well-known, well-regarded, well-respected tactics game that should come back. I should have more patience with it. The fact that I only played it for 10 hours, like the other two games that I nominated, I feel fine with having given up on after the amount of time that I put into them. I do not feel fine about giving up on Advance Wars after 10 hours. I should go back to it. So I think we are now down to Octopath Traveler and Codename Steam as the potential winners for this category. These are both such strong nominees.
Yeah, I feel I haven't attempted even 10 hours of Codename Steam. I think one thing that's a point in its favor of winning is the fact that it is so bizarre. Um
Yeah,
and it's
the
such like
weirdest.
it's so weird, and it comes from Intelligent Systems, which is the developer of the Fire Emblem series and Paper Mario series, and this is them just like taking a shot at like this weird little 3DS project. And so I think that speaks strongly of it, or strongly in its favor, versus Octopath Traveler, which I think everybody agrees is like a solid
You can say
game.
the same thing about Octopath Traveler, though, right? That it is a game from Square Enix, like the granddaddies of the RPG genre. If Intelligent Systems is the first and last name in tactics, then Square Enix is the first and last name in JRPGs.
But I guess what I'm saying is that, like, yes, that is true, but Octopath Traveler fits the mold of what you expect from Square
Yeah,
Enix,
that's true.
and I don't think Codename Steam fits the mold of what I would expect from Intelligent Systems, which perhaps makes it the more interesting artifact of its time.
All right, very good. So we are the winner for best strategy game or RPG to give up on after 10 hours goes to Codename Steam on the 3DS. Mark, before we get to our final award of the night, we of course have to give out the Slippy B DeFrog Award for outstanding contributions to the world of obnoxious characters. This is an award set forth by Slippy Frog, who, of course, is one of the most obnoxious characters in Nintendo gaming history. Made history, has countless contributions to this genre. So this is our never-ending salute Too Slippy, and obnoxious characters everywhere. Previous winners include the dog from Duck Hunt and, of course, Funky Kong. But this year, we have decided that we are honoring Navi from the Ocarina of Time.
Oh, I mean, really, what can you say about Navi? Iconic for her work with "Hey" and "Listen."
Listen. It's true. And there are very few characters that will interrupt you to tell you something that you were tell you to do something that you were already on your way to do, as frequently as Navi.
And I think Navi is also like the first in a long line of really chatty Zelda characters that maybe like are abuse their privilege to talk to you more than Navi does, but Navi is like the start of that.
Navi's also, I guess my memory of what she actually says isn't that clear to me because I know that it is dialogue that I just jam that A button to skip through. But she's a little bit of a bully too, right? Like
Yeah,
she's not nice to Link.
no, that's her like the fun in air quotes thing about her. She has like a very kind of like Tinkerbell-ish attitude.
Yeah. Which I understand could also be said about Midna, but I like Midna.
It's the small details. Like Midna has personality, and Navi is just kind of like a ball of light with wings.
Right. Midna also has the best hat on a Nintendo character.
That's right, which we can't say for Navi.
Mark, that brings us to our final award of the night. Thank you, everyone, for sticking through. I know these award shows tend to go long, but this one is the granddaddy of all awards. We are, of course, discussing the best Mario in a Mario game. Mark, would you like to read your nominations for best Mario in a Mario game?
Yeah, my Tanuki Suit Mario from Super Mario Brothers 3, Flood Mario from Super Mario Sunshine, and then Wedding Dress Mario from Super Mario Odyssey.
Ooh, man. I was not expecting Wedding Dress Mario from Super Mario Odyssey. That is a good Mario. All right, so my nominees are as follows. Mario from Super Mario RPG. This is the in typical Mario fashion, he doesn't speak, or at least like in other Mario games, he'll speak in like the little 2 or 3 word phrases that are "Mamma Mia" and what have you. But he doesn't speak so much as he pantomimes stuff, and everyone perfectly understands his pantomime. It's hilarious. Next is just Mario from Super Mario Galaxy. This is a Mario that runs and jumps through space. I don't really know how to. I don't know how to improve on that. He flies around space and stars and warps around gravity and tiny planets. He's amazing. And then finally, calling back to our conversation about the best power-ups in Mario games, the cat Mario from Super Mario 3D World.
This is a little bit tough. Tanuki Suit Mario is of course iconic. I think it says a lot that the Tanuki Suit has staying power, whereas something like the cape or the flying squirrel suit or the bell, or not the bell,
propeller
but like,
hat.
yeah, the propeller hat, where like they will come and go, but a Tanuki Suit is forever. And then we can probably get rid of the Flood, the Super Mario, or the Mario with Flood backpack from Super Mario Sunshine. It's my favorite of like the 3D movements. And when they talked about why they added Flood, they said it was because people had difficulty like landing in the right spot, like doing small maneuvers in Super Mario 64. Right. And I'm definitely in that category where like I appreciated the ability to make those adjustments with Flood. And so I really like the movement of Mario in that game.
I think that it's fair. I think probably for the same reason, or at least like related reasons, I would like to remove the Mario from Super Mario Galaxy, which it kind of just comes back to he moves in the way that I like him to move, but there's really nothing about that version of Mario that makes him visually different or like different in any like material way, or any like character way. and almost actually in terms of character is a little bit incongruous to the rest of the game. Like especially given like what Rosalina is and what her story is. This kind of fun-loving space plumber doesn't make a whole lot of sense in that space. So that leaves us with Cat Mario, Super Mario RPG Mario, Tanuki Mario, and Wedding Dress Mario.
So let me say a few words in support of Wedding Dress Mario. First
Please.
of all, stunning in a white gown, tiara, and shiny blue earrings. But two, what I really like about this is that it's like having fun with Mario in a way that I don't know that we've seen Nintendo. Like it's just like Mario letting loose. It's like, yeah, like why not let Mario wear a wedding dress and like earrings, like, and without comment, right? It's not like a part of the game or anything. It's just like, no, it's just a costume you can wear like any other costume. And I think it's funny. I think like yeah, like I think it's great that it's in there.
Yeah, I mean, I will agree that it is great that it is in there. I think it is hard to call that the best Mario. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like it. I'm glad that it's there. I agree with you that it is funny, and that's not to say that men in dresses is inherently funny, but Mario wearing a white wedding dress is in fact funny, objectively so. But I don't think it is the best Mario. You know what I mean?
That's fair. Yeah.
It's too divergent from what Mario is to be the best Mario. Which means we are left with Cat Mario, Super Mario RPG Mario, and Tanuki Mario. Mark, what are your thoughts here?
I don't really have a strong opinion about Super Mario RPG Mario. I think it's cute that, you know, he's like the silent protagonist in the world, but everybody understands him. Has a little bit of that. I mean, I guess R2D2 makes beeps, but that's sort of like R2D2 type thing. But that's pretty much it for me. Like I wouldn't include him on this list.
All right. So that means we are down to, and this is a question that I think you and I have drilled down into a couple different times and probably gone opposite directions on previous conversations, to Cat Mario and Tanuki Mario. This is tough, and it breaks my heart that we have to choose one of these as the best Mario in a Mario game.
Let it balm your soul that like this is not a definitive ranking.
It does. It does, in fact, balm my soul. So I guess for that reason, I think I got to go with the Tanuki Mario just for being more iconic and having more staying power, whereas the Cat Mario may, in fact, end up being the future of Mario, but the Tanuki is the past, the present, and the future. I feel like we got to give it up to that Tanuki Mario.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree.
So there it is. The award for Best Mario in a Mario game goes to Tanuki Mario from Super Mario Bros. 3. All right, Mark, let's close this out. All right, that's going to do it for the 77th Annual Cartridge Awards. Mark, great show this year. I'm happy. Congratulations to all the winners and to all the nominees. A great competition this year, and it's just good that we get to have such great competitors every year.
Yeah, it really, truly is.
If you think we made any wrong calls here, you can email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. But again, that email address just goes to the entertainment product, Nintendo Cartridge Society, and not to the awards granting organization. So we'll just have to pass it on to them. And again, they're crooked, so it may not matter. That's going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts if you like the episode. You should share it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you share stuff. Also, watch the real Game Awards tonight if you had fun with this fake Game Award thing. That's happening today. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo, our theme music. It's provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.
Have you ever encountered an unexplained hairy bipedal hominid in the woods?
Have you received telepathic messages from an unidentified aerial phenomenon?
If so, then you need to listen to Bigfoot Collectors Club. I'm Michael McMillan.
And I'm Bryce Johnson.
And together with super producer
Riley Bray,
we make up the Bigfoot Collectors Club.
That's right. Every week we talk to actors, comedians, writers, and paranormal experts about their personal paranormal histories and share stories of high strangeness.
Like the time when we talked to Craig Ferguson about the Loch Ness Monster and when a sea witch told him he had raven magic.
Or the time I asked Pitch Perfect's Anna Camp her opinion on cattle mutilations. Past guests have included Rachel Bloom, Jen Kirkman, Paul F. Tompkins, Bobcat Goldthwait, and more.
So if you've ever been abducted alongside 5 reindeer by an alien with drills for hands or witnessed Bigfoot crawl out of an interdimensional portal,
don't laugh, happens all the time.
Then check out Bigfoot Collectors Club on Campfire Media or wherever you get your podcasts.
Bigfoot Collectors Club. You're here to believe us.
wait, is that how it goes?
Campfire.